Guys, well, I'm going to try it the old-fashioned way. You say Rhone, I say Rosé. Which wines for Labor Day? But let's not call the whole thing off. All right. So if you are logging in, please, in the video comments below or to the side, depending on what device you're on, let me know where you're logging in from. And I will refresh and make sure that Facebook is cooperating with us. Let me just unpin this from the top of the page so folks can find us. And yeah, TGIF, here we are at the Labor Day weekend. All right, here we go. Okay, so who has plans to fire up the barbecue this weekend? I'm just curious if you have some plans to do that. We are going to be traveling this weekend, driving our son back to Waterloo, so we will be on the road for most of the weekend, and but it should be fun. So I'm just going to wait because I know we had a little bit of technical problems at first getting started with this, but again, if you're logging in, please let me know where you are and what's the weather like where you are. I would love to know. Oh, Labor Day wines. Well, it was Oscar Wilde who said, work is the curse of the drinking classes. I think that's the perfect fitting phrase for enjoying great wines on Labor Day. I just wanted to start with a little bit of a history on Labor Day. Did you know that in Canada, Labor Day has been recognized since 1872, and there were parades and rallies in Ottawa and Toronto to celebrate the contributions of the labor force to economic prosperity. And then in 1884, the Central Labor Union in New York City chose the 1st September of every year for Labor Day as their holiday. And so now it's legal, and we get this nice long weekend to ourselves. All right, so let's talk barbecue grills. So sometimes I've seen grills that are so huge you could almost drive them to work. They're humongous. But most of us probably have a more reasonable sized grill, but I'd love to know what you're going to have on your grill this weekend. So I'm going to start with, now barbecue wines in general have a bit of a reputation as being kind of second only to cooking wines. So, you know, their reputation hasn't been that great in the past, but now we've got so much choice, so many wines to choose from that I think we're in good stead with the choices that we have this weekend. So let me talk first about beef. So beef, and I think just grilling beef is a very carnal thing. Carnal meat, carnal wine. It's tribal, it's ancestral. And I think, you know, that whole thing of gathering around the burning pit with a slab of meat is just something that harkens back to the good old days, like ancient days. Hello, Paul. Hello, Stephen. Glad you could join me. Thanks for finding me here. And by the way, folks, if you are watching this on a video replay, still please comment. Let me know what you're up to this weekend and in the weekends to come, wine-wise, food-wise. I'd love to hear. All right, so with the beef, what we're looking for is what I call a carnal, full-bodied red wine. So there's a whole debate about whether Cabernet really suits a steak, grilled steak. One thing is for certain though, I rule out usually Bordeaux and even Burgundy. These fine French wines often are just overkill, or they themselves get slaughtered, no pun intended, in the backyard because you've got so many strong scents and like there's suntan lotion, there's fresh cut grass, there's the grill, there's aftershave lotion, whatever's going on, that I just find, you know, pouring like an expensive glass of Bordeaux or Burgundy is just a waste. The aromas will be lost, And to me, it's like wearing a tuxedo in your backyard. I mean, who are we trying to impress anyway, right? So I like full-bodied red wines that are a bit more casual, lower priced, and go better, I think, pair better with the grilled grub that we're going to prepare. Hello, Jeff, and happy Labor Day to you as well. Lori Kilmartin, thumbs up. Okay, so let's get rid of the elimination round, the Burgundy and the Bordeaux. I think, as I was saying, there's a bit of a debate whether Cabernet really is suited to the backyard. Definitely when Cabernet is in the Bordeaux blend, as it always is, I would say no. But if you're talking about maybe Cabernets from a warm climate like Chile, Argentina, where they've got a bit more fruit, a bit more heft, a bit more roundness, not so austere perhaps, and I know I'm generalizing broadly here, I think that's when it can work a bit better with grilled beef. So keep in mind too, there's so many different cuts of beef. So with a well-marbled cut of beef, you've got a lot of fat, which adds to the juiciness of the meat, the flavoring of it. But it also sort of gives you a bit of a larded, a larded layer on your tongue in a good way. And so you want something to cut through that richness, the juiciness of the meat and the richness. So a Cabernet from a warm climate, I think, would work. And I'd love your opinion too. Which wines do you think would work well? Stephen says his wife loves Napa Valley Cabernets. Excellent. Hello, Lori Sweet. Happy Friday to you as well. So I think, with the astringency, the dryingness of a Cabernet, as long as it's balanced as it is in the New World with lots of juicy fruit, I think you're okay with grilled meats, especially beef. So let's keep going on beef. What else would work? Well, I'm thinking rich round reds, and I think one of my go-tos is Rhone Valley wines. So is anybody else here a fan of Rhone Valley wines? I have a couple here. Guigal is terrific. Vin Sobre, I always get a kick out of this name. It sounds like sober wine, which is kind of an oxymoron. But there's so many. Perrin and Fils, Perrin and Sons, Chateau Beaucastel, which is them. But what with these Syrah or Southern Valley Rhones, which are a blend of red grapes, you get Syrah, Grenache, Mourvèdre, but all of these grapes tend to be full-bodied, rich, but supple. They're not so subtle. So you don't get those mouth-drying tannins that you might from Cabernet. They're just rich and round, beautiful with any cut of meat, I think. Lori, you're saying there's a Malbec just out in the LCBO called 1853 Old Vine Malbec. It's flying off the shelves, trying to get it for this barbecue this weekend. Absolutely. You guys are end running me here in a good way, because Malbec is another one of my number one choices. Here's one from Alamos. Again, there's just so many great Trapiche. I mean, throw out some brands here, guys, if you like. Paul says he prefers a California Cabernet, also a good Zinfandel. Now, Zinfandel is another rich, round, full-bodied, usually California wine. I always think of the 3 R's, Ravenswood, Rosenblum, Ridge, but there's plenty. Sergasio, lots of great brands. And it's more plummy, more almost purple plummy. And so I love Zinfandel with sort of baby back ribs or grilled pork chops. It's got that rich juiciness. And baby back ribs, if you're not familiar, are the pork ribs that are cut from the lowest part of the rib. So they tend to be a bit more tender, a bit more flavorful and juicy, and not as fatty as spare ribs, say, which are pork or beef ribs that are cut from the chest, the sternum, etc. of the pig or the steer. So you're kind of looking at what cuts of meat do you have and which wines might pair best with the nature or the character of the meat. So Jeff Doc Ray says, if hardwood charcoal, yes, hardwood charcoal, a good peppery California Zin, right. And that's a mesquite, I believe. My expertise is in wine and to the extent that it pairs with food, but I'm not what you would call a cook or a chef. So you guys can help me out with sort of the intricacies of these food pairings. But mesquite, not to be confused with mosquitoes, of course, that's what pairs best with mosquitoes is citronella, that little burning light that's gets them to go away. But mesquite is hardwood charcoal, and it really gives that nice smoky flavor. I think some people like it better than just, I think, plain briquettes or plain charcoal. All right, so let me just make sure I'm covering everything with beef before we move on. So really we want lots of fruit, a little bit of spiciness, some smokiness to go with the charred nature of the meat, and a good touch of acidity because you want some juiciness flowing. The charriness can be drying a little bit, just like tannins can be. So we want reds with some juiciness. Now the three countries I think that are most famous for barbecue, so America and Australia, the Barbie, and Argentina, the Asado, also produce spectacular wines to go with barbecued meat. Coincidence? I think not. So, you know, we've talked about Malbec, which is, of course, Argentina, and they're famous, the Argentinians. I was down in Argentina, and they do a traditional asado, A-S-A-D-O, and it's just a lovely barbecue style of cooking, outdoor cooking, and they'll have chimichurri sauce or spices, so it's a mix of ground spices that they'll sprinkle on the meat, or they'll do rock salt. So they often will do rock salt as a seasoning, not salt, because that can make it too salty. The salt is spread evenly. Rock salt is just enough seasoning that doesn't make the whole slab of meat taste salty. Hello, Ellen. And Stephen says, Shadow Pesky Terrace 2015 was recommended to try with back ribs. Oh, that sounds great. You guys are great with your recommendations. Again, think about the countries where barbecue is a big part of the cuisine. Often, if you think of the rule of thumb of regional pairings, they produce some really terrific wines to go with the barbecue meats. So with lamb, one other one I wanted to mention here is Baco Noir from Ontario. So Henry of Pelham is kind of the famous kingpin of Baco Noir, but it's, to me, a cross of between Shiraz and Zinfandel, very plummy and rich and full-bodied and just what a good grilled piece of beef needs, especially their old vines. Now, there's lots of Baco producers in Ontario, but theirs really sticks out for me. When it comes to lamb is a very fatty sort of meat in a good way, but it really needs something supple and juicy, but also maybe a tinge drying. But that's where I go back to the Rhone with Syrah and some of these big red grapes. Very classic match for Rhone. Lori says she loves Sandbanks Baco. That's from Prince Edward County. It's a great one, Lori. Then we have our hot dogs and our sausages. I mean, when I was asked which wine pairs best with hot dogs, I usually say I'd rather not eat hot dogs, but I know many people are fans of hot dogs and sausages, whether they're spicy or not. And again, I know I keep coming back here, but a Rhone with some spice to it, or try something like a Nero d'Avola, that's the grape name, black grape, like from Cusimano. This is from Sicily, so southern Italy, the island of Sicily. Beautiful. It's round, it's full-bodied, it's supple. Be wonderful with any type of sausage, I think. Might even make hot dogs taste good. And then when it comes to chicken, of course, chicken to me is a white canvas. And it just depends how you're seasoning or cooking it. Now, grilled chicken is going to have that charry flavor. So where normally with roast chicken, you might go with a Chardonnay or a Sauvignon Blanc, something more tame, you can really step up your game flavor-wise when the chicken is grilled. So some of these reds would be just fine with it. I also like rosé when it comes to grilled foods, whether it's chicken or, say, seafood or veggies. I just find it sort of picks up, there's a brightness in rosé, especially a dry one like this, that picks up the charriness and brightens it without it all becoming too dark. It's a nice contrast of flavors. Jeff Dockery says, question, I marinate the flank with sherry. Ooh, soya, fresh garlic, needing accompanying reds. Ideas appreciated. All right, so guys, you can jump in with answers here. Let's see, if you had sherry, soya, fresh garlic, so you've got some sweetness going on there, Jeff. I might say, I'm going to keep defaulting to these Rhone Reds, but you want that plummy juiciness, the perception of sweetness, even if the wine is technically dry, like it would be for these. But it's the perception of sweetness through the ripeness of the fruit. You've got to match that sherry and the soy and so on with really plummy, rich wines. So an Australian Shiraz would be great, California Zinfandel, and this Nero d'Avola I think would be ideal, really. Elaine Bruce, the Nero tastes great with lamb. It indeed does. Hello, Elaine. And David is here. David Zagrolad. Boxed wine with hot dogs. You're one of my peeps. Yes, exactly. Perfect, David. Although these days they're packaging fine wines into box wines, so got to watch what you're pouring out there, so you don't waste the good stuff. All right. So what else have we got? Of course, we've got grilled seafood and veggies, grilled kebabs. So I didn't want to leave out, of course, white wines, rosé I've just touched on, or even sparkling wines. So especially when you're warming up and people are gathering, if out in the backyard, you're having neighbors over, it's the family, it's really nice to start with a really refreshing, crisp white wine like a Riesling. It's a lovely one from Flat Rock in Niagara, but New York State makes them, Washington, BC, Nova Scotia. I mean, there's just so many. And then here's another rosé I'm a big fan of, the Gris Blanc. So it's a gray-white wine, but it's a rosé from Gerard Bertrand from the south of France, and Chateau Bellevue-La Forêt. Lovely, lovely rosés. And guys, I'm going to be, you'll be able to find all of these wines in my wine reviews, which I'm going to talk about momentarily. All right, so you don't have to scribble all these down. And just before we move off some of these full-bodied reds, there was one I forgot to mention, which is Divole, which is from Chianti Classico. So northern Italian reds are often really good with barbecue, especially like one that is rich and round like the Divole Chianti Classico. All right. Oh, I'm glad you're loving it, Elaine. That's great. I just thought I'd do this informally. It's not as planned out as my usual Sunday Sipper Clubs, but since we're not having a Sunday Sipper Club this Sunday, I thought, why not just get on and talk about this? So when we talk a bit more about seasonings, the chimichurri seasoning from Argentina, you should try this because it's a real nice blend, very flavorful of parsley, cilantro, garlic, oregano, and so it really adds great freshness to meats. And it's really true to its Argentine roots, so it really goes nicely with a Malbec. Now, if we're talking about marinades and sauces, most marinades are a combination of spices and sugar and vinegar. So a tannic red wine is going to taste like cold tea with that. So you really want to keep the tannins smooth. All of the wines, the reds we've been talking about today, are smooth tannin wines. The opposite would be a really young Cabernet. You get that furry mouth feeling. Not gonna go well at all. Then we have chipotle. And chipotle are made from small peppers or jalapenos, and they're usually about 2 or 3 inches long, and they have a very smoky flavor. So chipotle sauce, sort of brushed maybe on fish tacos or chipotle on other foods, is a great one, again, to go back to the Zinfandel and the smoky character, say, of a California Zinfandel, or back to the Rhone with that. You also have garnishes, like your basic ketchup and your relish on hamburgers, which ketchup has more sugar than ice cream. So we're talking very sweet garnishes, all right? So you want to keep that in mind. Again, you're going to go for something very juicy, very sweet. But when it comes to seafood, the Cuvée Catherine, a sparkling wine, is such a lovely wine to pour. And I don't think this is overkill for the backyard, unlike Bordeaux. Yes, it's a bit more fancy, but it's cool, it's refreshing, it's got bubbles, it will cleanse the palate from seafood, and I think it adds a celebratory note to a backyard barbecue. So that's where I would veer off the fancy kind of thing. And Elaine's asking what would go well with lemon and pepper seasonings. Well, then I would go right to a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, a crisp white wine, or even a Gruner Veltliner, Elaine, which often is described as having white pepper. Both have lemony citrus characters. So, of course, we've got New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, but we've got Sauvignon Blanc from the Loire Valley in France, Sancerre, and from a variety of other regions. But those would be my go-to regions. Lori says, what would you suggest for cedar planked salmon? Well, I'd go with a rosé, Lori. You know, this Gris Blanc or one of them. A crisp Riesling would work. People often recommend Pinot Noir. I'm touch and go with that with salmon. I'm starting to come around to maybe not thinking it went well. I've been recommending it for years, but I'm going to do some more testing. I'm going to be very thorough for you. So that's what I'd suggest. Great questions, guys. Yet another great red would be the Gran Coronas from Spain. This is a Cabernet, but again, it's rich and round. Of course, Spain is famous for its Tempranillo grape from the Rioja region. Another lovely choice, especially with lamb. Very, very classic. Now, what about after dinner? We don't want to forget after dinner, especially if you're roasting marshmallows, or even if you're not. I love a port. My favorite port is a tawny port. And that may make me less evolved, but I love the caramel toffee richness of a tawny port versus the more darker nuances of a vintage port. So with the vintage port, you're going to see the year on the label. With tawny, it's going to say just tawny, or it could say 10, 20, or 30. It's a blend of years. That's what that indicates. Very different flavor profiles. This would be my marshmallow wine. So it's sweet, it's fortified, 19% alcohol, lots of sweetness, but just beautiful on its own, or pair with marshmallows, whatever works for you. Now, I also wanted to show you a bit about all of these wines come out of my own wine reviews. So I'm tasting constantly for you, my liver for the people, and picking wines every week, fresh wines. So I wanted to show you a bit about the wine reviews so you know how to use them and how they might help you with picking Labor Day wines this weekend. So let me go over to So you weren't hearing me at the end either when I was explaining the web page, eh? I just want to see if the audio came back near the end. Maybe you can let me know in the comments. But basically what I wanted to show you with the wine reviews is how you can search and get more value from the wine reviews. So I think what I will do is just talk you through it. Okay, so it's okay now. Audio is back. Was the audio back when I'm on the search page? I'm going to try it again and see if you can hear me. Maybe just type yes or no for sound being on when I'm over on the search page. Okay, so I'm back over here. I'm going to assume that you can hear. And so you can you can search for a wine very quickly and then click into it, as I was saying, and then add it to a custom shopping list. So you can add it to a wish list if you want for the future. You can add it to your cellar. Oops, I clicked on that twice. So it would go right over into your cellar. And that would, you can see how easy it is. And you can make your own notes in your virtual cellar over here, how many bottles you purchased, how many you've consumed, so you know what's still in stock. And then you can even put, when you think the wine will mature, your own rating, if you like the rack number, the location, the price you paid, and any other comments. You can even add pictures. So let's go back here. I'm assuming you guys can still hear me. So you can even email it to somebody else over here and create your own lists. So let's just go back. As I was saying, you know, if you add a wine to your shopping list, you can go right to it from here or from the main menu, and you can see where all your wines are added. And then you can even you can print and get a text list of which stores have that bottle in stock now. So it's showing you which stores closest to you have the wines, which is very convenient in case you don't want to be running around all over town trying to find your reviews. So you've got my review plus down here showing how many bottles are in stock. You've got community reviews and lots of other things. So if you like this wine, then you'll like that wine. So I recommend other wines. And all of this is accessible on the mobile app. All right, let me come back. I hope you were hearing all of that while I was demonstrating the wine reviews. If you could let me know, that would be great, because I can show you a few other things that are kind of nifty about the wine reviews. So let me just refresh on Facebook and see if you guys are still hearing it. And thank you for your patience with this. I will just toggle down here. And okay now. Okay. Not quite sure if you're hearing me when I demonstrate the wine reviews or only when I'm right here. Okay. I heard you fine during the wine reviews. Okay, so I'm going to assume I'm going to go back to that page and show you a bit more over here. Okay, so as I said, you can see everything here. You can find it in stores. And what's really cool is, now this will show you, depending on where you live, the stock closest to you. Now I'm in Ontario, so it's showing me LCBO, but it shows the other liquor stores as well. So it's saying, okay, based on where you live, this is real-time inventory updates via GPS, so location services, showing you this store that's right here, gives you the map, that's, you know, the closest to you right now, has 9 bottles in stock of that wine. And you can expand your screen to full size if you can't see this quite clearly, because I know some of this text is small. But with every wine review, I review the wine, I give food pairings, then I tell you when I can compare it to previous vintages, and so on. So there's a lot of information that comes with each wine. And I think, you know, the value in this is really hitting the liquor store and kind of knowing which wines you'll want to have even before you get to the liquor store. Because I know that for many of us, just looking at a wall of bottles is just confusing and overwhelming. So, you know, through my wine reviews and the wines I've been discussing today, you can discover new wines you'll love. You'll know which foods to pair with them. And you can learn about underpriced wines. We're all looking for a deal, right? And you can access all of the wines, including your custom shopping list, on my free mobile apps. So the wine reviews are accessible, and I've posted this link in one of the comments below in this Facebook. It's nataliemaclean.com/VIP hyphen FB as in Facebook. Actually, Sarah, if you could post that link, because I'm using this new setup versus the one where I was scheduled, so people can have this URL. So what this gives you, the wine reviews are $3 a month, so I can't imagine a bottle that costs that much, or $35 a year. And you get a guaranteed with a full refund if you're not drinking better wines. I guarantee it. So if you go to this URL, you can find out more about getting full access to the reviews for this. And here's that URL again. So let me come back here, and hopefully you're hearing all of this. But I just wanted to make you aware of, here's a lot of great wines for the Labor Day weekend, and they're all accessible via the wine reviews. So I know I haven't talked about the wine reviews before on Facebook, so I wanted to give you an idea, because I just think it makes your wine shopping simple. So let me know if you have any questions about the reviews, or any other questions about Labor Day weekends. Labor Day wines. Okay, there's the URL. Thank you so much. It looks like I posted it. But yeah, so guys, I've got some more time if you wanted to keep chatting about Labor Day wines or the wine reviews. But again, if you want to get full access to the wine reviews and be able to see the tasting notes, to create your own shopping list, to see where they are available in your local store, that would be awesome. And it is right here. That's the URL, and it's been posted below. Okay. Let's see if we have any other questions. And again, if you're watching this as a replay, please feel free to post the questions. Thank you, Elaine. I appreciate that. I'm glad you enjoy the site. I try to make it as easy as possible to find really good wines. So when you're using the mobile apps, another feature is you can just bring up, you just press a button inside the app, and it'll tell you the 10 best wines in store right now, according to me, my reviews, according to like the 10 best value-priced white wines, 10 best value-priced reds, rosé, dessert, etc. And conversely, the 10 best top score wines, so the reds, the whites, the rosés, etc. So those tend to be more expensive. So it depends on what you're looking for, but it will say, okay, you're in this store, I know the stock, I know where you are, and here are the 10 best reds. Oh, thank you, Elaine. That's very kind of you. Great. Okay, guys. And I've also got the URL right below me here. I don't know. Hopefully that type is large enough for you to see it, but it's nataliemaclean.com/VIP hyphen FB as in Facebook. All right. Yeah, you're welcome. You're most welcome, Jeff. I'm glad you enjoyed this Friday midday break. I appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. I hope you guys found value in all of these pairings to get you set up for, hey, Lori, good question. Do you have stores in Alberta? What I have, Lori, are the product codes and prices for stores in Alberta. The real-time stock thing is, we're still working on that because it's a privatized system. So as you know, all kinds of stores have different inventories. But I do have at least the products that are available in Alberta. So you can go to an Alberta page, and I'll post this afterwards, that will just show you wines that are available in Alberta. It won't show you, okay, I know there's 9 bottles now in stock right there, but it'll at least show you Alberta available wines, Alberta prices, Alberta product codes. So we're almost there with that. All right. Does anybody have a favorite barbecue food and wine pairing that they'd like to share as we wrap up here? Mine is, I love a grilled chicken. I love chicken. Chicken done any way possible. Grilled chicken and, well, you guessed it, a Rhone Syrah. If I'm going to have a Pinot, I'll probably go with something a little lighter, like grilled veggies and a portobello mushroom. Love that combination. All right, guys. Well, I will still be jumping in here and answering comments even after this Facebook Live ends. So I really appreciate you joining me here on your Friday afternoon. Again, I hope that you will consider getting yourself a subscription. Treat yourself to the full access to the wine reviews. You need that to see my tasting notes and my scores. They're not publicly available except for subscribers, and I hope you find it worth it. For $3, save yourself from bad wine and poor experiences, and elevate your wine game so that you're always drinking wines you love and knowing which foods to pair with them, whether it's this Labor Day weekend or in the future, any weekend. You are welcome, Lori and Ellen. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll talk again soon. We'll be back on the Sunday Sipper Club September 9th at 6 p.m. Eastern, so join me then. And I wish you all the best. Have a great long weekend, guys. Bye-bye, Paul. Take care.